Any parent wants the best for their kid, but figuring out what exactly is the best can sometimes be a difficult process, especially when it comes to the education of your child. Today, there are so many clashing opinions, varying curriculums, and new approaches out there that it can all be a bit mind-boggling. To get some clarity, one mother moved across the world with her kids to see if she could learn something from how other cultures approach schooling.
I came back to the U.S. in 2016 after having been overseas with my three kids for 10 years. I noticed so many differences, right, when my kids went to the public schools of California.
That's Teru Clavel, a mother, education expert, and author of World Class, One Mother's Journey Halfway Around the Globe in Search of the Best Education for Her Children. Clavel is originally from the U.S., but packed up with her three young kids and lived overseas in cities like Shanghai, Hong Kong, and Tokyo for nearly a decade. In addition to the cultural and language adjustment, the family had to quickly acclimate to a new set of standards for schooling.
In Japan, when compulsory education begins, there are no janitors, and the kids clean the toilets and the blackboards, and they get on all fours and actually run up and down and mop the floor with their rags. And that instills in these kids this idea that they are part of something bigger, and they not only have to take care of themselves, but they have to take care of not only the physical space, but one another. So there's a lot of things that we can learn in this country that are different overseas.
While cleaning may have been a big shock to her kids, Clavel says one of the biggest differences she noticed was the raised bar of expectations for her children.
The level of expectation from the teachers in the classroom. And that's to say that if my kids in some of the places, especially in Shanghai, if they didn't get a 95% starting in first grade, they were kept after school or supports were put into place until they mastered that material at that level. And this whole notion there that anybody can do anything, it doesn't matter what your background is socioeconomically or beliefs, or even if the native language isn't spoken in your home, everybody can achieve that higher level.
Clavel says that this anyone can do anything mentality was instilled from an early age in every child. In schools, all members of the family work in harmony with the teacher to help get the student to where they need to be. But in the U.S., these relationships are fractured. Apart from parent-teacher conferences, or when a student is in trouble, parents and teachers share little correspondence.
When I talk to U.S. parents, there's a lot more focus on the A to Z gamut of child management, if that's a word, from club soccer to chess club to taking them maybe to the library. But it's not necessarily a prioritization of the academics. And I feel that there isn't as much, I guess the best way to put it is partnership between the parents and the school, so the teachers specifically.
Abroad, however, the family and teacher are in communication almost every day.
In Japan, for instance, there's a journal that goes back between the teacher and the family every single day, and it's literally commented on every day, where you can talk about your child's health, their mood, if they didn't understand the homework assignment. They can even say, Sam was in a fight with his brother Rick, so he's in a bad mood today. And then the teacher would comment, and it would go back and forth. And in the U.S., I feel like there's much more of like a hands-off, well, it should be done at school, or we can't communicate as well. And there's a bigger gap, I feel like, than what took place where I was. And that's something that we can address in this country, and it gets complicated for sure when you have multiple children with different schedules and you have dual income earning families. But there's nothing more important than the teacher in your child's learning.
You must be wondering how teachers have the time to talk to each parent. Are class sizes smaller? Is there more time for lesson preparation? Clavel says that in the schools her kids attended while abroad, the average classroom had a class size of about 35 or 40 students, but it depended on the grade. Elementary class sizes typically hovered at about 30 to 32 students per teacher. You may be thinking that this number is still pretty big. Clavel says that the big difference between the U.S. and Asian education systems starts with how teachers are trained for their role.
Most of the teachers in Japan and in China, I should say all of them, I shouldn't say most, they had to go through a credentialing process that was as rigorous as our lawyers and our doctors have to go through here in the U.S. So When you think about that, these are the top students. They've had to go through very tough examinations.
In addition to rigorous training and high standards, teachers are viewed very differently. The mentality of treating a teacher with the utmost respect is implanted in children at a very early age.
I will fully admit that when I was in Asia, I couldn't believe that these 5- and 6-year-olds were sitting still, like absolutely still during classes that would be 45 to 50 minutes. And there are a lot of practices that make that happen, from total respect to the teacher to having recess between every single subject where they're running around outside for 5 to 10 minutes, even if it's really, really cold outside. And there's a level of behavior that from the moment the kids even enter the gate in Shanghai, they're saluting their teachers. At the start and end of every class in Japan, you are bowing to your teacher.
Discipline and respect in the classroom is key to learning. Without these two pillars, Clavel says kids easily become distracted.
I did a full observation of schools in the 2017 to 18 academic year, and I would do these classroom observations, especially in elementary school, but also middle school, where you have kids twirling their hair, playing with their shoelaces, playing with all kinds of things while lying down on rugs, listening to story time, and the teacher spends so much time addressing the kids not paying attention. And then even the middle school, I was unfortunately kind of not happily surprised that kids are listening to their smartphones and music during class with headphones, or I should say earphones and ear pods that are hidden behind their hair during class.
In today's world, the use of technology in the classroom has become a heated topic. Should students be able to carry their smartphones and headphones during the school day? How much screen time and tech use should be in a curriculum? Clavel says that abroad, the school systems her children attended incorporated little to no tech in the classrooms.
Something that was amazing to me was the lack of technology that was in the classrooms, both in Shanghai and in Japan. And I talk about this in World Class because sometimes I would talk to a Chinese student and say, well, you don't really have technology in your classroom. And they would reply, of course we do. We have electricity. We have plugs. In the U.S., there's such an effort now to have a one-to-one program where even some kindergartners have one iPad for each child in the class.
Living abroad in Asia is extremely different than the U.S., especially the opposite approaches to learning between the two. When Clavel and her family returned to the U.S. in 2016, her kids attended the prestigious public schools district of Palo Alto in California, near San Francisco and Silicon Valley. Despite the district's high ranking, the school system didn't match Clavel's set expectations from the standards she had witnessed abroad. Today, the family lives in New York City, and her kids attend private school. Whether kids are in public or private school systems in the U.S. or abroad, approaches to learning are always changing. It can be helpful to step outside the U.S. education bubble and gain different perspectives from a myriad of cultures. To find out more about this topic, our guest, Teru Clavel, and her new book, World Class, One Mother's Journey Halfway Around the Globe in Search of the Best Education for Her Children, visit viewpointsradio.org. This segment was written and produced by Amira Zaveri, studio production by Jason Dickey. I'm Marty Peterson.
Viewpoints returns in just a moment.
Holiday celebrations are often joyous occasions, but they can be challenging for the millions of people living with Alzheimer's disease and those who care for them. The hustle and bustle of the holidays can be stressful for those with Alzheimer's, and changes in the daily routine, large gatherings, and noisy environments can create extra anxiety. Monica Marino, Senior Director of Care and Support at the Alzheimer's Association, has some tips to make the holidays enjoyable.
First, plan ahead. Prepare the host for special needs, such as a quiet room for the person to rest. If you're hosting, let guests know what to expect before they arrive. Since crosstalk and multiple conversations can be challenging for people living with Alzheimer's, try engaging the person one-on-one or in smaller groups, and keep them involved in the celebrations.
Marino also suggests experimenting with new traditions. For example, if evening confusion and agitation are a problem, turn your holiday dinner into a holiday lunch or brunch. Find out more tips at alz.org.
This week is National Influenza Vaccination Week. The American College of Physicians, a national organization of internists, advises adults to get an annual flu vaccine. And it's a chance for even more, according to ACP President Dr. Robert McLean.
It's not too late to get a flu vaccine. It's also the perfect time to discuss with your internist other recommended adult immunizations that you might need. Vaccines are safe, effective, and help prevent illness, hospitalization, and even death, especially among adults with chronic conditions.
Adults need vaccines too, so take the opportunity to protect yourself against the flu and find out if you need vaccinations or boosters to protect against pneumococcal pneumonia, shingles, tetanus, and other diseases. Learn more at acponline.org.
And that's Viewpoints for this week. Viewpoints is a production of MediaTrax Communications. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram to learn more about upcoming shows. And find a library of past programs on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Spotify. Plus, you'll always find previous segments and more information about our guests at viewpointsradio.org. Join us again next week for another edition of Viewpoints. Coming up next week.
Top Dog Foundation is setting a whole new example on how to treat senior dogs, how to value senior life.
One organization's efforts to save older dogs and help pet owners plan ahead. Then,
I would hope he would still be alive,
What happens when the bully you wished would go away actually did? I'm Marty Peterson.
And I'm Gary Price. These stories in depth on your public affairs magazine, Viewpoints.